Well, good morning. Happy Thursday to you. August 1st day of August, 2024. Beautiful day outside. Very overcast. We got an early rain yesterday. I don't know if you were a part of that, but I was really surprised. Usually it starts raining at 4 o'clock or so, but yesterday it started raining at like noon. It was kind of interesting. So that was fun. And beautiful day outside this morning. Thank you so much for joining me. We are going to be, Jennifer and I will be going to Phoenix today to pick up in-laws for the next season of our life. And that's kind of interesting. See how that all turns out. You know, it's the things that you don't know that are like, okay, you know, you want to prepare as much as possible, but you know, little things like, what's the best kind of car? Is it high seating or low seating? And, you know, what are the advantages and disadvantages of both? And I just have no idea. So we're playing it by ear. Let's put it that way. We're playing it by ear, and it'll be interesting to see how it all goes. And yeah, went out this morning, and the full moon was, well, it's the, you know, waning moon out there. It's probably, the new moon is probably in another few days. And so there's not much light coming out in the morning, but I was able to see the moon because there was not that much cloud cover. Actually, I think there's more cloud cover now than there was this morning. Let's see. Also, we have some birthdays today. Today is the first John Henry Baum. Happy birthday to you. And then on Friday is Grayson LeBeau. Happy birthday to you. And then on Sunday, we have Caleb Spock and Tony Zizzo. So happy birthday to both of you. And if you know those people, you run into them, say happy birthday to them because it's their special day. All right, I'll close out of that, and we'll go over here. Yes, it is humid outside. It'll all be good. Yes, we'll find out. We'll find out how it goes. All right, let's see. What else can I say about housekeeping? By everything I can anticipate is that we'll be together on Monday as normal. So that'll be good. We've got worship this weekend. We're starting a new sermon series called The Harvest. It's based upon Jesus when he said, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And so we're going to talk about what that means and what's the harvest and who are the laborers and what are we supposed to be doing? It's kind of fun. I'm looking forward to that. And let's see. Also, so let me go over here. Well, let's go ahead and get into our study. But there was a question that came up yesterday about what are the annals of the kings? Are they not written in the annals of the kings? And I just did some research on that. And I pulled up... this is a site called gotquestions.org, and I thought it had a really good answer to this. And the question is, what are the annals of the kings? What is the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? And this is what they say. As the authors of the books of the kings of Chronicles were written in their histories, they referenced one or more external documents that they used as source material. They refer to this as the book of the annals of the kings of Israel. The books of Chronicles, or the book of the history. This historical source is usually cited by means of a rhetorical question that begins, are they not written? For example, in 1 Kings 16:5, the historian writes this, as for the other events of Baasha's reign, what he did and his achievements, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? That formulaic construction appears 33 times in the book of 1st and 2nd Kings. Similar wording is found another 2 times in 2nd Chronicles. So we know that 1st and 2nd Chronicles, 1st, 2nd Kings give this history, but it's mostly in 1st and 2nd Kings, not necessarily in Chronicles. All ancient countries kept records of their own histories. A king's exploits and what happened in his land were recorded in official annals. Esther 10:2, for example, speaks of the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia. When a plot to assassinate King Xerxes was uncovered and the conspirators were hanged, the event was written in the Book of the Chronicles. The Kingdom of Israel also had official records called the Book of the Annals of the Kings of Israel. Judah had similar books, one kept by the prophet Iddo and one simply called the Scroll of the Kings. The biblical book of Kings and Chronicles gives a non-comprehensive overview of the kings of Israel and Judah. The author of Kings often refers his reader to the fuller account by mentioning the book of the Annals of the Kings of Israel. We could consider those references as an ancient form of footnoting or an example of an in-text bibliography. 1st and 2nd Kings on the northern kingdom of Israel and 1st and 2nd Chronicles on the southern kingdom of Judah. Chronicles contains a much more thorough commentary on the reigns of the kings of Judah than Kings provides on the kings of Israel. This makes sense because God's covenant regarding the coming Messiah was to be fulfilled through the line of David of the tribe of Judah. David's line went through Solomon and his descendants, all of whom reigned in the southern kingdom of Judah. The detailed records of the kings of Israel contained in the book of the Annals of the Kings of Israel were not included in the canon of Scripture. The official documents referred to as the Book of the Annals of the King of Israel are no longer extant or have yet to be discovered. Thus, God did not deem those volumes of civil records and daily happenings to be useful for our instruction, and the non-canonical annals were not preserved along with the Old Testament scriptures. So they don't exist anymore, at least we haven't found them. But wouldn't it be cool if we did find them? I think, they could have ended up in Alexandria. If you'll remember, Alexandria had the most phenomenal library, but then it burned down. So perhaps it was there and it got burned down. Who knows? But, the whole, one of my favorite stories is the Didache, which lied, nobody found the Didache for 1,500 years, and all of a sudden it pops up. And, they did dating on it and found out it was a very old extant copy of the Didache. The Didache is Greek word for teachings, and you've heard the word didactic, which means teaching. So the Didache was the teaching of the early apostles, and it's dated to around 80 AD, so maybe 50 years after the time of Christ. And we now have a copy of it, where we didn't for 1,000 years. So it would not, there are things like Noah's Ark or the Annals of the Kings. They're just things out there that we know that they existed at one point, but they don't exist now. And I would love for those things to show up at some point in the future. But as of right now, we don't really have that anymore, which is unfortunate. It would be kind of cool. But we have, and I think the author of this is correct. Everything that God needs us to know exists. So we don't necessarily have to have that. It would be cool to have it. It'd be exciting to rediscover it, but it's not anything that we absolutely have to have for salvation. The other thing is, maybe we'll go, let's see, what is a good graphic to show this? Maybe it's this one. The other thing that's probably interesting to talk about is right now we have the divided kingdom. We had Saul and David and Solomon, but then after Solomon, you have Rehoboam to the south and Jeroboam to the north. And I can't really blow this up or else it'll get way off the screen. But what this shows is that in the line of Judah, so there's the line of Judah, that's the southern kingdom. This is the bull of Israel, the northern kingdom. In the southern kingdom, you have direct lineage from David all the way down to Jesus. You see that? There's another lineage that gets to Jesus, but there's a lineage that goes through the kings, and it's sonship. In other words, it's direct lineage. Over here in Israel, it pops around. You have some who are sons of their fathers, but then they're overthrown, and then you have new kings, and they're overthrown. So here on the right-hand side, you can see that Israel It doesn't necessarily have direct genealogical succession from king to king, as you do in Judah. In Judah, it is. It's the direct line. It's a dynasty, basically. The definition of a dynasty is that you've got a king, and then it's one of his sons that gives that provides the next king or queen. That's called a dynasty, or a house in Britain. It's called the House of Tudor, or the House of what is it now? But anyway, those are called houses or dynasties. But in Israel, to the north, it's more about power and who's going to take away power and become the next king. So I did find that kind of cool thing, but I also have a chart. I'll show you the chart. This is, now we have Judah to the left and Israel to the right, and we're basically just going down kings. So we've done Rehoboam, we've done Abijah, and we're now in Asa. And in Israel, we've done Jeroboam the first, Nadab, and we're going to get into Baasha today, or Baasha. That would be Baasha. Baasha. Anyway, we'll get into those kings. Oh, and on this chart, it says, are they evil? Did they start out evil, and did they end evil? So you can see, because sometimes they start out, like, for example, down here, we have Jehu, who started out good but ended up evil. And so we'll kind of follow this chart. And then the other thing is, well, here's another chart that shows just basically the two kingdoms. In purple, you have Judah. No, you have Israel. And in green, you have Judah. And it goes through. And then I found this chart, which basically is the same thing. It shows the kings and their date. So it'd be like linear. But the chart goes up or down, whether or not they were good for the nations that they served or they were bad for the nations that they served. So, for example, you have David, who was good. You have Solomon, who was good. And then you come down, you have Rehoboam, Judah to the south, and he was not good. So his chart goes down. Asa was good, so he goes up. So you have that also. And we might bring up these various charts throughout just to see what the kings did, what their judgment was, and those sort of things. All right. Well, today we're going to get into a new king and a new prophet. We're going to begin in chapter 16 of 1 Kings, and we'll just start reading at verse 1. Then the word of the Lord came to Jehu, son of Hanani, concerning Baasha. So Jehu is a prophet, and he's the son of Hanani, and this is concerning Baasha. He is a king to the north. Let's just double check that. Yeah, so it's Jeroboam, Nadab, Baasha. So he's the third king of Israel to the north. And so this is a prophecy that comes to Jehu. Verse 2, I lifted you up from the dust and appointed you ruler over my people Israel. But you followed the ways of Jeroboam and caused my people Israel to sin and to arouse my anger by their sins. So I'm about to wipe out Baasha and his house, and I will make your house like that of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Dogs will eat those belonging to Baasha who will die in the city, and birds will feed on those who die in the country. So that was the same prophecy that came to Jeroboam. It's basically, you won't be buried. The birds and the dogs are going to pick your bones. And this is probably another thing that's interesting to note is that as a nation, as these nations happen, they're very tribal. And when the ancestors die, their presence still exists, their memory still exists. And one of the things that they would do is if a leader died that was very, very important, like Moses or Aaron or someone else of the tribe, they would gather up the bones after all the flesh had been taken off, and they would take those bones with them because that would be their presence that existed in the tribe. very, very much like today we have graveyards and we put people in graveyards or we'll put them in columbariums, but their presence is there. And the same thing happened with Israel, but often they would take their bones and keep their bones. So the idea that the dogs are going to take your bones and the birds are going to take your bones is kind of anathema, because it means that you're going to be wiped out from the history. And that one of the things that gives you comfort when you're dying is to know that the people will remember you. But what they're saying here is that not only will the people may not remember you, but there may not even be a tribe anymore, because it's going to wipe out. I'm about to wipe out Baasha and his house and your house. I mean, basically, you want to keep the tribe going. And the last thing you want to do is to have the tribe scattered. This is why when the exiles happened, it was such a difficult thing, because people go in different directions. The tribe isn't coherent anymore. They don't have enough. It's like coals in a fire. And the more coals you have in the fire, the more the fire keeps going. But if you scatter the coals and they're all laying on the ground and they're not adjacent to each other, oftentimes those coals will just disappear, and they'll, they won't keep burning. You'll end up with those, pieces of coal that just run out of oxygen. And it's good for the tribe to stay together when it's dispersed. It's very hard for the tribe to stay together. So he's going to wipe out. Dogs will eat you in the city, and birds will feed on you in the country. And this is Baasha of Israel. Verse 5, as for the other events of Baasha's reign, what he did and his achievements, are they not written in the books of the annals of the kings of Israel? Baasha rested with his ancestors and was buried in Tirzah, and Elah, his son, succeeded him as a king. So now we can see chronologically, let's go to here, Baasha is followed by Elah. And let's see over here. Baasha, his son Elah. So it goes vertically. If it goes vertically, it's a son. If it goes horizontally, it's not a son. And let's go back to here and see if we can find Baasha. Baasha and Elah, they're bad kings, right? Because they're going down. All right. And we know that. So Elah is a bad king. Doesn't say that yet, but Baasha goes to Elah. Moreover, the word of the Lord came through the prophet Jehu, son of Hanani, to Baasha and his house, because of all the evil he had done in the eyes of the Lord, arousing his anger by the things he did, becoming like the house of Jeroboam, and also because he destroyed it. So that's about all we know about Baasha and Elah. But let's go now to Elah, king of Israel. In the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah. So where do we find that? So we're still in Asa. So you can see here during Asa, you have Nadab, Baasha, Elah, Zimri, Omri. So Asa lasted a very long time and went through about 5.5 kings of Israel during the reign of Asa. 26th year of Asa, Baasha became king of Israel, and he reigned in Tirzah 2 years. Zimri, one of his officials who had command of half of his chariots, plotted against him. Elah was in Tirzah at the time, getting drunk in the home of Arzah, the palace administrator at Tirzah. Zimri came in, struck him down, and killed him in the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah. Then he succeeded him as king. And as soon as he began to reign and was seated on the throne, he killed off Baasha's whole family. He did not spare a single male, whether relative or friend. So Zimri destroyed the whole family of Baasha in accordance with the word of the Lord spoken against Baasha through the prophet Jehu. Because of all the sins Baasha and his son Elah had committed and had caused Israel to commit, so that they aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, by their worthless idols. As for the other events of Elah's Reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of annals of the kings of Israel? So if we go over here again, we can see Baasha had Elah, and Zimri just comes in and kills Elah and becomes king. And that's how he takes over the reign. It's not the father-son thing. It's the I'm going to go in and kill you thing. And this is how kings become kings, right? Someone rises up and just takes kingship. And this still happens today. We just had an election in, was it Venezuela, that Maduro had another election, and the question is whether or not the election was valid or not. And if the military steps in, they could say, all right, we're going to serve Maduro, or we're going to serve the other candidate. And whoever the military backs, that's who the candidate becomes. Because it doesn't appear that the election went well. And here in the United States, we do have a military. But the commander of the military is the president. They're sworn allegiance to the president. I thought about this back when there was hanging chads. I don't know if you remember hanging chads back at the time of Al Gore and George Bush. Not George W. Bush, but his son, George Bush. And there was an election, and there were hanging chads, and they had to actually find out, was this an actual vote or not? Because it all came down to Florida, and they had to look at each ballot individually, and they had to come up with, I mean, that was as close of an election as I've ever seen in my whole entire life. It came down to like 100 votes or something like that, and it was all the hanging chads. And went to the Supreme Court. It was all sorts of just craziness at that time. And it was the time in my life when I thought, will the country stay together? And will the military step in? How will this end? Because we have divided government. Thank goodness we have divided government. We have the commander-in-chief, which is the president, who does control the military. And then you have the Supreme Court justices, who are checks and balances, and you also have the House of Representatives and the Senate, and all of these power players. I mean, when it comes down to it, military is a powerful force. In other countries, whoever controls the military controls everything. So here in the United States, it could be the President of the United States. If the president, because he has unilateral authority over the military, complete unilateral authority, unless he's impeached by the House and the Senate, which is possible, or if it goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court places an injunction on the president. I mean, it's just because the power structures are so diverse here in the United States, it's impossible, I think. It would be very, very difficult to have complete control. There's just too many places where there's checks and balances. In order to have complete dictatorial control in the United States, you'd have to control the presidency, the House with over 60%, the Senate with over 60%, and the Supreme Court would have to be people who are no longer following the law, but are following, the person in the presidency. And all of that happening at the same time is very challenging. But it isn't impossible. And I would even say that here in the United States, the president doesn't only control the military, but he controls the CIA, the National Security Agency, the FBI, all these different organizations, which also have power to do things. And so you could, and are those people in power? They're sworn allegiance to the president, but they're also sworn allegiance to the United States of America. So if they saw the president doing things that he shouldn't do, what would they do? It's just interesting. Anyway. So Elah is king. We'll start in verse 9. So Zimri, one of his officials who had command of half his chariots, plotted against him. Elah was in Tirzah at the time, getting drunk. Zimri came and struck him down. Oh, we already read all that. Yeah. So let's go down to verse 15. In the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, Zimri reigned in Tirzah 7 days. The army was encamped near Gibbethon, a Philistine town. When the Israelites in the camp heard that Zimri had plotted against the king and murdered him, they proclaimed Omri, the commander of the army, king over Israel, that very day there in the camp. Then Omri and all the Israelites with him withdrew from Gibbethon and laid siege to Tirzah. When Zimri saw that the city was taken, he went into the citadel of the royal palace and set the palace on fire around him, so he died. Because of the sins he had committed, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord and following the ways of Jeroboam and committing the same sin Jeroboam had caused Israel to commit. As for the other events of Zimri's reign and the rebellion he carried out, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? So Zimri was not king very long. 7 days, I think I see in there. Let's look here chronologically. Zimri is there. Zimri. Evil. Yeah, he only reigned in 885 BC. And it sounds like he was a captain of the army. There we go. And Zimri, yeah, he killed Elah and he reigned. But he was only reigned for 7 days, and then the army placed Omri to be the king. All right. So now Omri's king. Now let's look over chronologically. Omri is king, and he lasts for a long time, from 885 to 874. So he's lasting a very long time. But we're not going to get into him because it's way too late. So, sorry. So we'll pick up the story with Omri, king of Israel, when we get back together again. And maybe we'll bring in some other historical things just to spice up the story. The kings, as you'll find out, Kings goes rather quickly because it's the same story over and over again. Are they good king or the bad king, and who overthrows them? But it also, once we get into the area of the prophets, it can get very exciting. So let's go ahead and close in prayer. Dear Jesus, be with us all today. Keep us safe till we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so pray for me as we move down to Phoenix, or not move down to Phoenix, go down to Phoenix and pick up people. Let's see. It'll all be good. Humidity makes it much worse. Yes, it is humid out. That is so true. It is hot out there because it's humid. All right. We will get together. We have worship on Sunday, and then we'll get together on Monday. So may you have a great day, and we'll see you then. Take care. God's blessings.